channel, the G Squad. As you can see from the title, today's video is going to be all about college entrance tests, or CETS for short. So just a brief background, last year I took 4 of the country's major admission tests, namely the ACET, the UPCAT, the DCAT, and the USTET. And by God's grace, I was able to pass all of them. So hopefully this video will help you guys out in preparing for those sets as well. So this video will have 2 parts. This one, part 1, will be all about the sets I just mentioned. So the ACET, the UPCAT, the DCAT, and the USTET. I will be covering specific details about every set, general information you need to know, the experiences I encountered whilst taking them, and of course, their coverage. And the second part will be all about general test-taking tips, review centers, and the like. Before I get into it, I just want to put a quick disclaimer out there. Everything I'm about to say in this video will be based on my own opinions and experiences, so please do take them with a grain of salt. Aside from this, college entrance tests are adapted and restructured every year, so the experiences I encountered last year may not be the same as the ones you will encounter this year. So without further ado, let's get started. So first, let's talk about the ACET. By the way, I'm going to go through the tests in the order in which I took them. So the first entrance test that I took was the ACET. This is the Ateneo de Manila University's college entrance test. And if you ask me to describe this test in a few words, I think I'd say that it's the ultimate test of how well you do under time pressure, because I remember that although the first part was relatively chill, the second part really was the definition of time pressure. I remember we were made to answer about 30 items in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes. I think there was a particular subtest wherein we had to answer 55 vocabulary questions in like 5 minutes. So in this test, you really have to manage your time well and answer as many items as you can, as fast as you can. So to talk about the coverage of the ACET covers 3 topics. I'm reading from my outline, by the way. The ACET covers 3 topics, namely English, mathematics, and general intelligence. So yes, the ACET has no science in it, thank God. So just to break that down further, here are the topics that I think I encountered during the ACET. So there's, your numerical ability, mathematics, your algebra, geometry, trigonometry, arithmetic. Though I would say there wasn't a lot of the geom and trig part. And there's language proficiency, so your vocabulary, grammar, identifying sentence errors, and stuff like that. You also have reading comprehension, and you have the essay. Now, from what I remember, the ACET is the only entrance test that has an essay portion. So if I would give you a tip on composing your essays, my tip would be to just don't be pressured to make a very long essay. Actually, it's better if you make it short but substantial, so make it concise but succinct. And as long as you have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, and your idea flows smoothly throughout the whole essay, I think you'd be fine. Usually, the essay in the ACET requires you to write about abstract topics. The topics they give you, I think, wouldn't be too hard or too complex for you to write on it. Okay, so after the essay, I think they also have logical reasoning. So this is where the choices are true, somewhat false, and false. So read up on that if you want to be more prepared. And then they have abstract reasoning and general information. Okay, so let's move on to the UPCAT. The UPCAT is the University of the Philippines college admission test, and personally I find this set very challenging simply because a very huge number of students take this exam every year, which means that you have more competition basically. So your score in the UPCAT just constitutes 60% of the UPG. So the remaining 40% will be computed from your high school grades. So for those who aren't very confident in their high school grades, I suggest that you really do your best in the UPCAT and give your all. And for those who are very confident in their high school grades, don't be too complacent either or too confident. Because as I said, your UPCAT score constitutes majority of the UPG. So the UPCAT implements a right minus 1/4 wrong scheme. So this means that for every wrong answer that you have, 0.25 points will be deducted from your score. So with this, Remember to make educated guesses. As much as possible, use the process of elimination whenever you're unsure of the right answer. So if you were to ask me whether to leave a blank or blindly guess at an answer, I'd suggest that you still guess, because when you leave a blank, you automatically have a 0% chance of getting the right answer. So now let's tackle the coverage of the UPCAT. So as I remember, the UPCAT was very broad in general, and it was like a little bit of everything. So the first part of the UPCAT was the language proficiency subtest, and in this part there were Filipino and English portions. So be sure to also review your Filipino grammar and vocabulary. Second part of the UPCAT is science proficiency. I remember that in this part there was a lot of data interpretation and analysis questions. So they'd give you different diagrams and graphs, and then after that you'd have to answer questions about those diagrams. In this part, I really wasn't able to utilize a lot of the physics formulas and bio concepts that I memorized. So the third part was mathematics proficiency, and this subtest comprised of algebra, geometry, trigonometry, basic stat, and the like. And lastly, reading comprehension. Again, in this subtest, there were both Filipino and English portions. Now let's talk about the DCAT. The DCAT is the De La Salle University's college admission test, and out of all the sets I've taken, I would say that for me, the DCAT was the easiest. This is partly because there was less time pressure, so we were given more time to answer the test questions, and aside from that, a lot of the things we reviewed in my review center appeared on the DCAT. So what's the coverage of the DCAT? As I recall, when I took the DCAT, there were 8 parts. The first part was random questions. So here, basically, a mixture of questions about different subjects and topics could be found. So there were questions about science, math, language, and also a bulk of it was about finding patterns. Part 2 was language. Part 3 was reading comprehension. And for the reading comprehension part, I remember that the passages given were very long, I think spanning from 1 to 2 pages each, and for every passage, just about 5 questions were asked. 4 was math, and I think that was comprised mostly of algebra and general arithmetic. 5 was statistics, and if I remember correctly, some questions about thesis writing and research were there as well. Now, the DCAT was the only set I took wherein a special or a specific subtest was dedicated to statistics. So do brush up on your basic statistics lessons like general probability, standard distribution, finding the mean, median, and mode, what else, correlation, stuff like that. Part 6 of the DCAT was the science subtest. Now, I found that the questions here were very objective. So as long as you know your basic physics formulas and basic concepts in bio and stoic and chem, I think you'd be good to go. Part 8 of the DCAT was the life skills test, or I think I'd also call it an attitude test, because the questions here were very situational. So they'd give you a situation and you'd choose how you'd react to it. All you really need is common sense and a good sense of morals. Now let's go to the last set I took, the USTET. This is the college entrance test for the University of Santo Tomas. And in stark contrast to the DCAT, I actually think the USTET was the hardest set. Maybe that's just for me, but a lot of the questions I encountered there were unfamiliar. And I think most of the questions in that test were also senior high school centered. So if you're taking the USTET, don't forget to brush up on your senior high school lessons as well. So now let's talk about the USTET's coverage. So based on my experience, the first part in the USTET was the mental ability portion. So in this portion, your logical reasoning skills will be tested. You'll encounter questions regarding syllogisms, finding patterns, basic math questions, and the like. The second part in the USTET is English. So compared to the other sets I took, the English part in the USTET wasn't just comprised of your basic language proficiency questions like vocabulary, grammar, and the like. I also remember that there were questions about EAPP, thesis writing, I guess, research, and another type of questions that I was completely unfamiliar with. And if this is correct, those unfamiliar topics would include models of communication, types of interviews, speech acts jury, and other stuff I don't know about. The third part of the USTET was math, and again, for me, I really had a hard time answering the math portion. I think maybe because it was very STEM-centered. And the fourth part of the USTET is science. Now, if you're a design or architecture applicant, be prepared for a special on-the-spot drawing exam. And aside from that, you'll also encounter an exam on spatial relations and I think abstract reasoning, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope this video helped you out and gave you a clearer idea of what to expect from every set. If you want to know more about general test-taking tips, reviewing tips, review centers, and on-the-day itself reminders, then please check out the second part of this video. May God bless all your endeavors, and I know you can do it. Please comment, like, and subscribe to our channel for more content. Bye!